Okay, how is everybody? Good. Um, so last week we did the intro to the class overall, and we talked about the Mgmt model of strategy and business model. Um, we talked about your LinkedIn profiles. We talked about professional development plans. Today I want to talk about the case analysis paper that's going to be the largest part of your grade, and then Wednesday, Friday we'll talk about Globus, the simulation that's another big part of your grade, and then we'll do some more lectures after that. So today is all about case analysis. So actually, before I open that, if you go to Blackboard and go to case analysis materials, there's a document here called Case Analysis Template with Info Sources. What's that? Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. Hang on a second here. There we go. Okay, so this is Blackboard. If you go to Blackboard, to the content section of our course, and then go to case analysis materials, there's a document called Case Analysis Template with Info Sources. We're going to open that up. That is the template that I want you to fill out, basically, for your case analysis. So everything in here has black lettering and red lettering. The black lettering is the template that you're going to end up filling out, and the red lettering is instructions for what I want you to do in each section. So your overall summary, you're going to actually do this part last. It's the first 2 pages, but you're going to end up doing it last. It's just 1 page right now, but once you get done filling it out, it's going to stretch out to 2 pages. Basically, this is in your own words. Some of the tools in here, you're going to go and use various library databases to find the information and then copy and paste it. Other things are going to be in your own words. So this summary section is in your own words. And the first thing you're going to do in the summary section up here at the beginning is you're going to write a paragraph summarizing what you think is the most important issue facing the company. I want a paragraph with 4 sentences, basically. First of all, I want you to state the issue succinctly. So what is the main issue? Sentence number 1. Explain why it's so important. Sentence number 2. Give an example of how it impacts the company. So basically, each of your groups, once you form your groups, you're going to choose a company that you're going to do your case analysis on. It's going to be a company that's of interest to you professionally. And so you're going to explain why the issue is important, how it impacts that company that you've chosen, and then give a brief suggestion for what the company should do to address the issue. So that's 4 sentences total in your summary section here. The rest of the sections are going to have a similar format. You're going to highlight recommendations for the company in each of the 6 sections below. So you'll notice under analyses, we've got overall strategy analysis, and there's several tools under that you're going to fill out. There's external analysis and several tools under that, internal analysis and several tools under that, etc., all the way down the page, or all the way down the document. So for each of those areas, you're going to pick one issue that you think is the most important, and you're going to summarize that in each of these sections. So state the recommendation. So you're going to give a recommendation in each of these areas for what the company should do. Explain why it's the most important recommendation for this area. Give an example of the company's current situation with respect to the recommendation, and have the final sentence in the paragraph an example of how the recommendation will help the company in the future. So each of these areas, you're going to pick one recommendation, talk about why it's important, talk about how the company's set up for it right now, and why that recommendation would help the company in the future. Do that in each of the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas of analysis. So that's what you're going to do last, after you've filled out the rest of the tools. So we're going to start going through various lectures on these tools. We've already done part of it last week on the introduction and the handbook model. So you'll notice here, vision, mission, objectives. I've given you a table. This is kind of like fill in the blanks on this template. So I want you to go out to ProQuest or one of the other databases that you find in the library, or to Edgar, or to Google. Supplement that information with interviews with the target company. So find people that you know at this company and ask them questions as well. And fill out the table below. Make sure to footnote where you got the information for each of the boxes. So if we were to do this, for example, let me pull up something else for you. WSL library databases. So I've described the databases that you're going to use a little bit in this PowerPoint document called WSL library databases. It's right underneath case analysis materials. So you've got a couple of different database sources. ProQuest is a good database for doing general searches for news, books, journals, magazines, stuff like that. So if we open up this link, and let's say we're doing a case analysis on Chevron. So we would type in Chevron, and, or you can use the tools here, and vision, and let's see what it comes up with. So the first couple of results don't really seem to be telling us about the company vision. So we're going to need to make the search more specific. So maybe, yes?
So do we, like, when you go on the internet, do you find the vision, like the actual vision, and do we just, like, copy and paste it?
And footnote where you got it.
All right, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, you can. There's certain areas where I want you to write your own words, other areas where I want you to find information on the internet. This is
red stuff will specify that.
Yes. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Another question? You can go to the company website as well, but over the course of the entire case, I want you to use each of these resources a little bit. So I want you to use ProQuest for some things, company website for other things. talk to somebody from the company for other things, I want you to use a full set of resources. Okay? So Chevron and Vision isn't really getting us what we want on this search, so we need to make it more specific. Maybe we'll put Chevron and, in quotes, corporate vision. See what that brings us. Well, we've got a little bit more about corporate vision. This kind of mentions the corporate vision in passing here. Maybe we want to go to the corporate website instead. So we can open up another tab, Google, type in Chevron and corporate on Google and see what comes back. So we got the official Chevron website here, Chevron OEMS overview, corporate vision to be the global energy here. So this looks pretty good. We open up that document, and we're probably going to need to download it in order to be able to search it. So we'll open that up, find vision. Vision and values. There we go. Our vision for operational excellence is, there we go. So we're going to copy and paste that. That goes right in here. Now, once you've copied and pasted it, please make it look pretty too. So everything in here is Times New Roman 12-point font. So when we copy, it actually copied as Calibri 9.5. So please go in and change that to Times New Roman 12. And then we're going to put a footnote in here. For those of you who are not familiar with inserting footnotes, you can just go to Insert, and now everything's in a different place than where it used to be. Don't you love how Microsoft always like puts things in a different place with each new version? References. So you're going to go to File, References, Insert Footnote. Okay? And then I think the easiest way to, well, you could do a number of things. You could put the title of the report here. But then, obviously, that's way too big a font for a footnote. So we're going to go in and make this, we can leave it as Arial, but let's make it 8-point font since it's just a footnote. Okay, so you got your footnote there. Then I want you to do the same thing for the mission, the objectives. Bless you. Footnote where you got them. And I want all of this to fit on one page. So the only thing to your question, what was your name again? The blue shirt? Ariel. So the only thing that's different about your question, Ariel, is that if you copy and paste and it's longer than one page, I want you to shorten what you've copied and pasted so that the entire thing fits on one page. Got it? Okay. Yes?
If there's a URL, do you want us to include that in the footnotes?
Yeah, that's fine. So anything that you find off of Google, just use the URL. If you find it off of ProQuest, so I used the title here. I could have also done this. I could have copied and pasted this URL right here. That would have been okay too. If you get the information from ProQuest, I would prefer that you use this information right here at the top of the article. So the title of the article, where it came from, the date, and the words ProQuest. So if you got it from ProQuest, give me the first 2 lines here of the ProQuest citation, and so it'll be like this. Copy that. Okay. Except then we have to make that Arial 8-point font again.
You know, you can actually do that when you're pasting, right?
What's that?
You can actually do that when you're pasting.
When you paste?
If you right-click and paste, you can choose to insert text without formatting, so it'll just go in as whatever your paper
Yeah.
is.
So if you
That way you don't have to go and
if you
redo
copy,
it.
right paste and right click and paste.
Yeah, right-click where you want to paste it, and then one of the options is paste without formatting.
Oh yeah, I forgot. There's the yes. You can do that. So if I go back and show that again, I forgot that it didn't used to be an option. So right click.
And then it's that clipboard with an A on it.
Keep text only. There we go. So unfortunately, some of the formatting still comes. It gives you that carriage return. You got to bring it up to 1 line, but makes it a little bit easier. Make sense? Okay, so that's the vision, mission, goals part. Then I want you to figure out the company's handbrake strategy. So what are the arenas they're operating in? What are the differentiators that makes Chevron in this case different than BP or Exxon? What are the vehicles they've chosen? So are they doing internal development of things? Are they buying other companies? Are they doing joint ventures? Or are they franchising or licensing in some way? What are they doing first, second, third in their current plans for rolling out the company? And what is the economic logic? So are they competing on low cost? Are they competing on differentiation of the product? Probably they're competing on cost because oil is hard to differentiate. It's oil. So I want you to go and do a search, try and find these things as well. If you cannot find them with a search, or you can't find them by interviewing somebody from Chevron, I want you to state what you think the company should be doing in these areas. So let's say arena, Chevron should be more aggressively targeting expansion of retail sales in Africa. I don't know. Maybe that's what your suggestion is. But if that is your suggestion, rather than something that you found on the internet, I want you to put a footnote that says, this is our group's suggestion. Searches on arenas and Chevron in ProQuest and Google yielded no results. Okay? So if that is your suggestion, I want you to give a footnote saying that is our suggestion and explain what you tried to search on and we're not able to find anything. Okay? Does that make sense?
So, but this is an individual.
This is a group assignment.
Okay, group.
Yes, this is a group assignment.
So there'll be one paper for the entire.
Yep. Okay, after that, we've got business model. I talked about business model in class last week. I want you to be able to say, and this is in your own words, there's no particular database for it. What is the value to the customer? What are the revenues, variable costs, and fixed costs? I want this in 3 different sentences. So I want it to say, revenues come from XYZ, period, space, next line. Variable costs consist mainly of X, Y, and Z, period, space, next line. Fixed costs consist more or less of this, this, and this, period. Okay? And then tell me what the resources needed are, which is basically what you need to have in order to be successful in managing your most of your costs, your variable costs and your fixed costs. Corporate level strategy. We haven't talked about this yet. Well, all the rest of these tools you're about to see, we're going to get into in future lectures. But basically, I'm going to want you to fill out this chart here with with this stuff. Basically, I've given you. Again, you're going to go out and try and do searches. If you can't find the information, then you're going to put it in your own words. This is going to be either for the company or the division name or the description of the main business area. We're going to talk later on about vertical or horizontal integration. We're going to talk later about the BCG, Boston Consulting Group matrix, and whether things are an infant or a star or a cash cow. We're going to talk about different types of businesses. You're going to say which type of business this is. And then you're going to say how they created it. Was it an internal joint? Was it an internal new venture? Was it a joint venture? Did they buy another company? How did they get into each of these areas? Okay. International strategy, same thing. You're going to do searches in ProQuest, Edgar, or Google, or interviews to the target company, or your own words if you can't find anything. How does the company tailor products, production or sales and marketing in different markets? What are the non-headquarters locations doing that are innovative? I want to hear about a specific a specific location other than the headquarters and something that they're doing that's innovative. Profit sanctuaries. I want to hear about what are the largest markets that the company is active in, either internationally or regionally, whatever's relevant for your company. What are the largest markets it's active in? Global entry mode. Give me an example of how the company has entered an international market. Have they done it with an internal new venture? Have they done it with acquisition? Have they done it with a joint venture? Give me one specific example of how they entered a new international market. And then finally, explain to me the cage distance. We're going to talk about this later. It's basically a cultural differences between different countries. Tell me the differences between the country's home market and one of the international markets where it's active. External analysis. We're going to talk about external analysis and internal analysis next week and the week after. Corporate strategy will be a little bit later than that. So the order of the case analysis document is not the same order as the order of the lectures. Driving forces. You're going to go to a database called First Research Industry Profiles. You're going to read through that report that you find there. We're going to talk about that more when I do this lecture. Actually, I'll give you an example of it right now while we're talking. Again, you'll remember that I pulled up a PowerPoint on WSL library resources. So we talked about ProQuest already. Here we've got First Research and Business Source Premier. First Research is the one we're going to use for driving forces, and it looks kind of like this. You're going to come down here and you're just going to type in the name of an industry. So in this case, since we're talking about Chevron, we'll type in petroleum. Petroleum and petroleum products wholesalers, not really what we want. We actually want exploration. That's all wholesalers. So let's try a different, sometimes you're going to have to play a little bit with the words on your search. So Let's type in oil instead and see what that brings back. Oil and gas field services. Well, that's getting closer, but we actually want, there we go, oil and gas exploration and production. So this is from 2014. Let's see if we can get this phrase in a more recent report. (2013, 2014, 2015, 2016). That's pretty good. So you just open up that link there, and it opens up a document like this. You're going to scroll down for a little ways till you get to the part where it says critical issues, business trends, industry opportunities. You're going to read through those sections, and then you're simply going to pick the items that you think are most important for the future industry the company's going, the future environment of the company's industry, and you're going to simply copy and paste. So let's say long-term natural gas leases are one of the things that you think is important. So you're just going to copy long-term natural gas leases, copy, put that right here. I'm going to copy these words right here and put them in this box. And then again, you're going to need to clean up the text because when you copy from a PDF document to a Word document, it screws up the line breaks. So you need to go in and clean it up. And font-wise, this is all Calibri 10 and Arial 11. We actually want Times New Roman 12. So there we go. And then since all of this information comes from the same report, you can simply put one reference at the top. Go back to the report again, and in the case of First Research, I want this information right here. Well, it's hard to get the copy paste to work correctly. I want the title of the report, Oil and Gas Exploration and Production. And I want the date. So this 11/21/2016. And then we're going to get rid of the extra line break. And there you go. Make sense? Okay. So Porter's 5 forces. You're also going to go copy and paste. This is a different database. It's called Business Source Premier. You're going to go find the appropriate report, copy, paste, very similar to what we just did for driving forces, and then footnote at the bottom. You'll notice for each of these things, I've got the instructions in red. Key success factors, this is going to be in your own words. You're basically going to fill out these factors to be the same things as what your resources needed were in your business model. Then you're going to decide how important each of the factors are. You're going to justify with a sentence or so why the factors are more and less important. And that's that for that's it for that one. Internal analysis. You're basically going to go through and decide whether a company's, this is also in your own words, you're going to identify some resources or capabilities that the company has, and you're going to decide whether they're valuable, rare, whether they're easy to imitate, and how well the company is positioned to leverage those resources. This may seem like a lot right now, but the lectures that we have in future weeks are going to go over all this in more detail. Just giving you an idea now of the task that's in front of you as a group. For the competitive strength assessment, you're basically going to take those same factors that you just had up above, the same weights that you just had above, and then you're going to rate how good you think your company is that you're focusing on, and give some explanation of why that's the case. And then you're going to compare them to another company that's in the same industry. So maybe if we're talking about Chevron, the first box is on Chevron, the second box is on BP. Something like that. SWOT analysis, most of you are familiar with. The difference here is I want the opportunities, threats, strengths, and weaknesses listed in the top here. And in the middle of the chart, I want you to actually suggest strategies that the company could follow to, take advantage of their strengths, to leverage their strengths to take advantage of opportunities, overcome their weaknesses to take advantage of opportunities. I want to see how the company could address each of these 4 boxes. Nope, keep going too far. Then we're going to get into customer and competition analysis. So you're basically going to identify 3 different product segments for the company that you're studying. And you're going to tell me what the product is. You're going to go out, talk to some potential customers, find out the demographics of those customers, their purchase frequency, their price point. We'll talk about more of these things in the lecture in the coming weeks. Market sizing. This is going to be basically after you've identified the customer segments up above. I want you to make an estimate of how big that customer segment is. How much potential money is it? So to do that, you're going to do market sizing, which is outlined right here, and that's going to use a couple of different databases and some procedures about how to make assumptions, which we'll go through in the lecture for that topic later on. I'm basically giving you an overview of the rest of the semester right now in this document. So generic competitive strategy. You're going to tell me whether the company competes on cost or whether they compete on differentiation in each of these 3 customer segments that you identified. And then you're going to give me a little bit of explanation, 1 or 2 sentences as to why you think that's the case. How many times can I do that? Yeah, there we go. Competitive attack defense posture. You're going to tell me whether the company you're going to tell me first of all whether their market commonality and resource similarity, which is basically how much overlap is there between their markets and their resources. You're going to tell me whether they're a type 1 through type 4, and we'll get into what that means in the lecture. You're going to tell me whether they normally are an attacking or a defending company, and giving me a little bit of comments again about why you think that's the case. Market positioning map. You're basically going to give me 2 axes, something like price or quality of products here, and maybe geographic reach on the other axis. Tell me something on these 2 axes that will tell me something I didn't know about the companies and show me how they're different from each other. And you're going to put bubbles on here for where each company is, and then you're going to describe down at the bottom why you named the axes what you did and why you put the companies where you did. For management analysis, I want you to go out and do some searching on the databases again, in this case, for How does the company recruit, retain, and empower staff? What kind of software or hardware systems does the company use internally? Not what do they sell, but what do they use internally in their company? How does the company compensate employees, and what sort of non-financial incentives do they offer? And finally, how do senior managers and executives inspire staff or solve operational problems? Those are specific examples of certain types of management activities. I want you to go out, find examples of each, copy, paste, and footnote. Corporate governance. We're going to talk about corporate governance later in the semester. This is basically going to be a chart which has the names of the members of the board of directors of the company and information about whether they work for the company or not, how long they've been on the board, how old they are, what sex and ethnicity they are, what their educational background is, what their work experience is, and whether they have work experience with that particular firm or not. And we're going to kind of add those things up at the bottom of this table. Corporate social responsibility. I want you to go and do a search again and tell me what kinds of lawsuits have been filed against the company, what kinds of charitable giving does the company do, and what is the impact that the company is having on the natural environment or the general physical, financial, mental health of society, depending on what kind of company you're looking at. Sometimes it may be more about the natural environment, sometimes it may be more about the society. But I'm going to ask you to do a search and fill that out as well with footnotes. And then finally, we get to the financial analysis portion of this document. I'll do a special lecture on financial analysis later in the semester. It's not in your textbook, but this is a skill set that's important to have that I'll do a lecture on for you. You're going to go out, you're going to find numbers on gross or operating profit margin, current ratio, long-term debt to equity ratio, and average collection period. You're going to calculate those for both companies, and you're going to calculate what the industry average is. And then you're going to compare you're going to write down here below how those two companies compare to each other and how they compare to the industry average. Okay? After that, you're going to do an income statement analysis where you go and look at the income statement of the company for a couple of different years. And this is just basically a copy-paste exercise, except that at the bottom, I want you to choose one of these accounts that kind of sticks out to you as being interesting and explain to me what is interesting about that account. So maybe the company spends a lot more than the average company on IT systems, or maybe their gross margin is really low or that's really high. Depending on what you find, I want you to highlight one of those accounts and tell me what's interesting about it. Same thing for the balance sheet. You're going to look at these, you're going to copy paste these various accounts for 3 fiscal years, and then tell me the account that really stands out to you as being interesting in particular. Okay? And then finally, well, that's it. The common size balance sheet analysis, I'm actually going to take out of this, so you don't have to worry about that last page. That's what your case analysis paper looks like. That's what you're going to spend the majority of the semester working on with your group teammates. That and the simulation, which we'll talk about on Wednesday. So it's a couple minutes early, but that's actually what I had to go over for today. So if there's no questions, I will see you guys all on Wednesday. And anybody who has not told me your group yet, please do so as soon as possible, okay?
We pick our own company, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really care.
Anybody have a hobby that would lend itself to something like